Kurama is one of the most popular characters in Yu Yu Hakusho, only coming in second to Hiei in popularity polls. There could be many factors why, be it Kurama's intelligence paired with his cool plan abilities or his Bishonen character design. Even the series author Yoshiro Togashi seems to already know Kurama would be a popular character upon his introduction, and he replicates his character archetype of the feminine but vicious smart guy of the group in his second hit manga Hunter x Hunter. But to me, what's really the most interesting thing about Kurama is his character concept of being two different people, both human and monster in the same body. This unique character concept forces us to look at humanity from a completely flipped lens, which is a common theme for Yoshihiro Togashi's manga, and Yu Yu Hakusho in particular. So let's not waste any more time, and let's explore exactly what makes Kurama such an interesting character. Unlike Hiei, Kurama was always intended to be one of the main characters of the series, which is evident in his introduction, being introduced alongside Hiei and Goki, but being the only one of the three who wasn't evil and antagonistic. While all three yokai teamed up to steal sacred treasures from Spirit World, Hiei's Conjuring Sword and Goki's Soul Stealing Orb were used to cause harm to others, but Kurama stole the Mirror of Darkness for a more selfless reason. Kurama never even tries to fight or resist Yusuke, and he's willing to return the stolen artifact after he's used it to heal his mother. But Spirit World wasn't mistaken for perceiving Kurama as a threat, because Yoko was a very dangerous and savage yokai, even being the mentor to the worst of the three kings of Demon World, Yomi. Kurama's turn to the good side appeared to be unexpected even to himself, and is a direct result of his unique physiology. Kurama's origins are super interesting to me, because for one, I find characters like Kurama or Togashi's later Chimera Ant characters, who have a unique physiology, extremely interesting character concepts. Before the start of the story, Kurama was an extremely powerful Yoko, which literally translates to Demon Fox. Yoko was badly injured by a member of Spirit World's Special Defense Force, and he traveled to Human World to recover. Yoko ended up incarnating himself into the unborn child of a woman who would become his mother. Now this gives Kurama such a unique physiology. In a way, it's a kind of reverse version of the hypostatic union, where Jesus is fully human in flesh and fully divine in spirit. Kurama, on the other hand, has the human body of Suichi Minamono, but the soul of the Demon Fox. That's what makes Kurama's action in the first arc so interesting. For normal people, they have higher moral beliefs within their mind, soul, or conscience, and it's usually their fleshly human desires, be it anger, lust, or jealousy, that they have to fight against. You can see this in a lot of the characters who have an inner demon. Naruto is an especially relevant example, because his inner demon is also a demon fox named Kurama. But while Naruto's character and struggle is because he is a human that is cursed by having a demon sealed into him, Kurama is the demon sealed into a human. He is the curse. While other characters have to preserve their humanity and deal with their new destructive nature, the nature that Kurama has now is that of a human, and now he has to grapple with this formed feeling of caring for others. And this causes Kurama to sacrifice his life, using the forlorn hope to save his mother in an act of humanity, only being saved by Yusuke, who does the same. Kurama's demon nature allows his character to explore what humanity means, just like Toguro and Yusuke, but coming from the other side of the aisle. Now that we understand the two parts that make up Kurama, we can see how Kurama struggles to reconcile them throughout the Dark Tournament and Chapter Black arcs. The first instance of this is when Kurama fights Roto, who he clearly outclasses in strength, but Roto's strategy in this fight is to threaten to alert his brother in Human World to kill Kurama's mother if he fights back. This strategy is only partially effective. It does stop Kurama from fighting initially, but it only really forces Kurama to use a more cunning and vicious strategy to defeat Roto. And throughout the Dark Tournament, Kurama leans more and more into this vicious side of himself. It isn't until the Urashima fight in the semifinals where this finally pays off. Urashima initially tries to tell a sob story to play on Kurama's sympathy, his human side, to get the better of him. But Urashima's biggest mistake was trying to use his magic box to de-age Kurama into a weaker state. For anyone else in the prime of their life, becoming younger would be a regression in terms of power. But like we've established, Kurama's character functions in reverse. The magic box does revert Kurama, but it turns him back into his savage Yoko form, in which he easily defeats Urashima. The Demon Fox form is an interesting power-up, because unlike most power-ups in anime, it's not an evolution, but a regression. In his final match of the Dark Tournament against Karasu, Kurama is finally able to tap into his Yoko form for his hardest fight yet. The fight concludes with Kurama in his human form tapping into the power of his Yoko form, showing that he's starting to integrate the two sides of himself. Throughout the chapter Black arc, and due to the introduction of territories, Kurama isn't challenged in a physical confrontation up until the very end, and most of his battles are mental. Kurama's intellectual battle against Kaito, for example, doesn't really require him to foray far outside of his Suichi persona. But on the other hand, Kurama's battle with Amanuma, despite being against a child, challenges him more than any other battle so far. Now, I've already discussed how great this Amanuma fight is during the chapter Black dissection, but in terms of Kurama's character, it puts him in a situation where he must sacrifice the life of a child in order to save the world. Amanuma's territory functions similarly to the trolley problem, where beating him results in his death, but not beating him results in the deaths of many more. So Kurama reluctantly decides to pull the lever and Amanuma dies. And while this would have been a simple and logical decision for Yoko to make, Suichi is clearly disturbed by this, as we see when he takes his wrath out on the elder to girl. Now, while I think Kurama is a fascinating character, by taking the inner demon trope and flipping it on its head, there's a thing that makes the original trope interesting that Kurama lacks. The standard inner demon carries a lot more risk. If Sukuna, the Nine Tails, or even the Great Ape comes out, it's going to be bad news for everyone, friend or foe. The problem with Yoko Kurama is that he's not a destructive monster that will attack everyone indiscriminately, and he's not a completely separate person that has completely different goals than Kurama. Every time that Yoko comes out, he's extremely efficient at defeating the enemy, and the fact that the time runs out afterwards is probably for the better. This character archetype seems to be more natural for villains, like the reincarnated Griffith for example, because the human nature seems to conflict more with their evil agendas. A way that Togashi could have added more consequence to Yoko is by taking the symbiote Spider-Man approach and by having Yoko's vicious personality clash with his friends. But while Yoko isn't really that risky or consequential for Kurama within himself, one of the most powerful antagonists in the series coming into power was a direct consequence of Yoko's exploits. The Three Kings arc does the most for Kurama's character, exploring his backstory and introducing his former partner Yomi. Yomi is such a great antagonist for Kurama because we get to see in his backstory that he looked up to the person that Yoko once was rather than who he is now, and forces Kurama to reflect on that. For example, Kurama is the one who hired the assassin that blinded Yomi, but Yomi holds zero resentment toward Kurama for that, and actually respects that cold-heartedness, and he strives to emulate it himself. Yomi shows Kurama what would have been if he hadn't been sidetracked by his human life and continued his conquest of the demon world. And the ironic thing is, Yomi quite literally cannot see Kurama for who he is now, only being able to remember his former self, both in appearance and personality. Yomi takes a page out of Roto's book and forces Kurama to comply with him by threatening his family's life. But it's far more effective in this case since Kurama cannot defeat Yomi with the same ease as he does with Roto. Unfortunately, Kurama and Yomi never fight, which I think is a huge missed opportunity because Yomi is a perfect villain for Kurama, being everything that he was and then more. So seeing Kurama have to fight and grapple with that would have been a great conclusion. The anime adaptation tries to do something similar with Kurama's fight against Shigure. In this fight, Kurama starts as Yoko, but decides to end it as Suichi, which disappoints Yomi and goes against his entire philosophy. Regardless of what you think of the ending, Kurama will go down as one of the most popular characters in the series and anime as a whole. For Kurama fans, there are very few characters that can match up in terms of cool factor and aesthetics, but while also having the substance and depth at the same time. Personally, Kurama might be my favorite of the main four in Yu Yu Hakusho, but Togashi just took everything I like about Kurama and took it one step further with Kurapika. But what do you think? Is Kurama your favorite character in Yu Yu Hakusho? And do you prefer him over Kurapika? And did you like how his character concluded? Be sure to leave your takes in the comments, and don't forget to check out my dissection of the Three Kings arc as a whole, as I analyzed and give some ideas on how the arc could have ended differently. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next dissection.